What up, gang? So, recently on a video that I posted where I featured a longsword, someone made a comment that was essentially, oh, you call that a longsword? You should see a claymore. So that really got me thinking, like a lot of people don't really realize like what's in the name of these weapons that when we talk about them. So they hear longsword and they think a long sword, and that, you know, yes, that's correct, but there's more to it than that. So just real quick to preface, I'm going to generalize a little bit. So the period that I'm mostly interested in when it comes to swords and weapons is about the 14th through the 16th century. Specifically mostly around Germany, a little bit into Italy. Like when you talk about in the hemisphere, like that's kind of the area that I am mostly interested in. Is kind of like that high knightly era. So, looking at first let's just talk about like what would commonly be called the sword. So here you go. This is an example of just your basic arming sword, single-handed. Single-handed use. I could ostensibly get two hands on this and use it this way, but like it's not really necessary. It's probably better for me to just use it single-handed. So this would be just your basic sword. And another thing to keep in mind is that medieval people generally were not as stringent with their classifications as we tend to be in modern times. So looking at another common single-handed sword, this is a messer. So this is another single-handed sword. Now for both of these, that one a little bit less so. This is something that you could just wear around. Like I could just have it on my side. I could go about my business, and it's not going to be a big deal. It's relatively unobtrusive. So it's a sidearm essentially. And I could have it as a sidearm on the battlefield, or I could just carry it around in my civilian life. Moving on, so we would start to move into the longsword. So the longsword is here. So this weapon is about 45 inches long. Now what makes it a longsword, in my opinion, is that while I can move it around and swing it one-handed and do my techniques and whatnot, this weapon, the weight and balance and length tells me that it really kind of cries out to be used with both hands. Just everything about it says, put two hands on me and use me that way. That is the way I'm designed to be used. So this would be kind of more, it would be kind of ostentatious to be toting this around as your general sidearm. It is about at the upper limit of like what you could do. Like you can wear this around. I've done it. It's a pain in the ass, let me assure you. But this is very much at the upper limits of what you would carry around in just your general life. So moving on, let's go up a little bit. So this is another longsword. The one that I just showed you, that was 45 inches. This one is 48 inches, and it's pretty similar in a lot of features. They're both type 18Bs. This one is about 3 inches longer, so, like even more so, like this one cries out to be used with two hands. Like you can, once again, swing it around with one hand, but you can also kind of tell that that's not what it wants to be, that's not how it wants to be used. And this is very much, I would say, at probably the upper length of what you would expect out of a medieval longsword. You would not want to wear this, even just with those couple extra inches. Like this would be such a pain in the ass to wear around. This I would say is very much more of a kind of a specialized dueling weapon. Like if you're wearing this around, you're being pretty ostentatious. Moving on upwards. So this, I'm going to compare these two. This is an early greatsword. This is an Albion Maximilian. So these weapons in length are actually not that different. There's only about 5-inch length difference here. So yeah, actually make that like a 7-inch length difference, give or take. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but regardless. So there's a little bit of like a length difference, but just like that little bit extra. And the fact that this weighs a couple extra pounds, this comes in at just a smidge over 5 pounds versus those long swords coming in at just about 3 pounds. So it's just a couple extra pounds, but like everything about this weapon, when you pick it up and move it, you can tell that this cries out to be used as a main battlefield weapon. You are not wearing this around in any context in civilian life. You are not dueling with it. This is very much a battlefield weapon, and you can tell that when you pick it up and you swing it. So like when we're talking about a long sword, you don't think just a sword that is long. You want to think about like what the purpose is. Like what is the design characteristics of the sword? How is it designed to be used? And that's going to kind of inform, where we as modern people kind of situate our terminology. Anyways, there you go. Cheers.